Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC on ESPN 73 Bonfim vs. Brown, also known as UFC Vegas 111. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com, and with me, as usual, is Keith Shillan, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, Brad. How you doing?
Not too bad. We're at the time we're recording right now, just again, maybe 24 hours removed from trying to recap UFC Vegas 110 and Game 7 of the World Series at the same time.
Yeah. I think for a guy who's not a huge baseball guy, I think I'd rather talk about that. Like, usually we start these shows off with like a joke and everything, and I kind of like a pre-planned joke. But dude, this is, how many weeks? We had the UFC 321, which was on paper was a decent pay-per-view. It wasn't like a, huge, massive pay-per-view. And then obviously the way it went down, it kind of ruined everything. But how many weeks in a row has it been what was the last card you're really excited for?
I was pretty excited for 321. And then before that, Oliveira versus Gamrot, at this point 4 weeks ago was an exciting card, but I'm talking about individual fights. The last card where I was like, oh, this is the shit. The UFC 319 Duplessis versus Chimaev back in August.
The last 2 weeks alone is just, what the fuck are they doing? They're not even trying. Shout out to I don't know, you saw there was Dana White was doing some interview thing, but it was like a live stream with who's a Playboy girl, but what's her name? Nina Drama.
Yeah. And
some fan asked Dana, like, dude, what the hell's up with these two cards, like last week's card and this week's card? And why is it so bad? And of course, Dana knows exactly what he's saying, but he's gonna play dumb, like, dude, what do you mean it's bad? It hasn't even happened yet. Like, screw you. It's like, he's obviously talking about on paper. Like, you're not even trying to put together a good card.
That's 100% on brand for Dana. Like, within the last 2 days, he basically said, fuck off to, people who complain about these Apex cards. Like, hey guys, it's only your customer base, dude.
Yeah. What the fuck?
What do they know?
We are the complete opposite of what you're supposed to do if you want people to continue listening to the show. You're supposed to make it sound like this is great. This card sucks.
Hey, here's the thing. We have our audience, our people. If you're watching this right now and it's not your first time watching, if you know what you're getting and you came back, you know what you're getting. And we're going to tell you our honest take on these cards and on these individual fights as people with a certain frame of reference. We watch every single UFC card, every single UFC fight. It doesn't make us anything special, but we've both been watching this sport for over 25 years. So we have a little bit of historical perspective. When I say such and such is the best or worst thing maybe I've ever seen in the UFC, it's with more perspective than somebody who just started watching the sport 5 years ago. This is the reality. Like the in between weekends of the UFC's 42 or 43 card a year schedule are they're getting really, really rough. Again, the UFC is coming up on the end of its agreement with ESPN. They're starting the Paramount Plus era this coming year. And just keep in mind that the reason for that split is primarily because Disney/ESPN is not happy with what they're getting. It's not the UFC walking away. No matter what they say, most of this is down to the broadcast partner not being happy with getting, 22 Apex cards a year. So we'll see what the next year comes or what the next year brings. Keith and I will both be here for it. We'll be previewing and recapping all these fights. And even in the worst cards of the year, and this is certainly one of the worst cards of the year, there is stuff to look forward to. The main event this weekend, Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. It's a great welterweight fight. It is somebody that's been and kind of anointed next big thing at welterweight since the time he appeared on the Contender Series versus a guy in Randy Brown that I think I can speak for Keith and me both. We always thought he'd be an exciting guy that probably never turned the corner, and all of a sudden he's turning the corner. You know, he's in a position where if he beats Bonfim, he is a legit, no question, top 10 guy. So yeah, there's exciting stuff. There's also just some rough stuff on here, but we're here to talk about it all. I mean,
you know, this card reminds me of, it reminds me of when it's Thursday Night Football and it's the Browns versus the Raiders. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to complain that this is a horrible matchup. I'm still going to watch it.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like this. Like the main event's fine, but that's not a main event fight. That's a third from the top fight. You know, if this was a pay-per-view, that's not even making the main card. Like, what are we doing?
Not much I can say to that. Yeah. I mean, the card is what it is. Outside of the main event, what are you excited for? Give me a fight, or at least an individual fighter that you're excited to see what they got.
Probably the fight that I'm looking for. I mean, there's going to be, like, people come back on the recap show and be like, dude, that fight was awesome. What are you guys talking about? Like, we're simply obviously we can't predict the future, but we're talking about on paper and divisional relevance, and probably Duncan, Tulio.
I like that one.
That's probably the fight I'm probably looking forward most. Both, winner of that. Well, obviously, beating the other guy is a really good win. So that's one I'd probably say I'm looking forward to. Both still, fairly younger guys. I know they're like in their 30 or 31 or something like that, but they're not like 40s or anything like that. So right. I'd go with that fight.
Yeah, I like that one as well. Any other general thoughts on this one before we just jump right in?
No, let's do it.
All right. First up at UFC Vegas 111 is a middleweight matchup between Jackson McVey and Robert Valentin. McVey, the 26-year-old Minnesota native, is 6-1 overall. He's 0-1 in the UFC. He made his UFC debut back in July at UFC 318, getting armbarred in the first round by Bruno Ferreira. So the former LFA contender looking for his first UFC win still, and so is his opponent, Valentin. 30-year-old from Switzerland, 10-6 with one no contest overall, 0-3 in the UFC. He has already fought twice this year. He dropped a split decision to Torres Finney at UFC on ESPN, Emmett versus Murphy back in April, then came back at UFC 318 in July and got knocked out in just a minute and 10 seconds by Ateba Gauthier. So two gentlemen still looking for their first win in the octagon. Valentin is the one moderately favored to get it. He is minus 160. McVey is plus 130. The good news about this fight is that one of these gentlemen is going to get his first win in the UFC unless something unforeseen happens. The bad news is that, kind of like I said about one of the fights at UFC Vegas 110 this past weekend, it was the Billy Elikana versus Kevin Cristian fight. Whoever gets a win here, I'm willing to bet it's the last win he gets in the UFC. This one's rough. Both of these guys are very much under the gun to prove that they can compete at this level at all. Like, they're 0-4 collectively, and neither of them has been close in any of their tries. Like, if you look at Robert Valentin's UFC record, I mean, he got hammered by Ryan Loder in his debut. He got blasted by Ateba Gauthier in July. The split decision against Torres Finney, don't be fooled. It's only a split decision because I think Tony Weeks was watching the wrong fight. The 30-27 he turned in for Valentin is one of the worst individual scorecards of the entire year. Like, we won't remember it because the quote unquote right fighter won, but it's one of those splitters where the dissenting scorecard was just completely indefensible. I wouldn't have been surprised to find out that it was a tabulation error and he'd actually scored at 30-27 for Finney, because that would have made much more sense. Both of these guys kind of have the same problem. They are decent opportunistic grapplers, but they're long, lanky guys. Neither of them is very athletic. Neither of them is terribly physically strong. And they've both been just absolutely manhandled and muscled around by their opponents so far. I mean, in fact, the Valentin fight where he fought Torres Finney and got the split decision loss, like, Finney slammed him all over the place, and Valentin was just stuck looking for low percentage stuff from the bottom. I mean, he tried multiple times for guillotines while he was being taken down. He tried like triangles from the bottom, and Finney just picked him up and slammed out of him like, Rampage Jackson or something. And then McVey getting finished in the first round by Bruno Ferreira in and of itself is no shame. Like, that's kind of what Fajeda does. He's this psychotically aggressive, athletic, muscular, just maniac. But just McVey looked so slow. Fajeda it was slow for about 30 seconds. Then Fajeda runs in, gets his hands on him, flings McVey down, and the fight's basically over. I don't think. Oh no, I did give the odds. Yeah, Valentin's the slight favorite here, and I'm gonna lean his way. I think he's probably a little sharper striker. I don't think either of these guys is a great striker, and if one of these guys brings the fight to the ground intentionally, I think it's more likely Valentin. But if McVey tries to take Valentin down, I think that works out in Valentin's favor. I think he can probably sprawl or, start a scramble, get something going in transition. I said ahead of McVey's debut that I was actually kind of more excited to have him in the UFC than some of the other middleweights in LFA at the time that were, like, he wasn't the LFA champ, but I was more excited to have him in the UFC than the guy who was the champ at the time. I mean, I still feel that way just because he's so young and has some kind of unique physical tools, but he just showed nothing in the Fajeda fight, and the level of people he was beating in LFA was just so low. I don't think either of these guys is very long for the UFC, but give me Valentin to get his first win in the octagon. And I'm going to say this thing goes to decision, but if Valentin taps him out or pounds him out on the ground, that wouldn't shock me either.
Dude, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, why do we need this fight? Is there anybody who's on 4 o'clock on Saturday tuning in to be like, oh, I can't wait to see this fight? And if I ran the UFC, I would sign anybody who isn't, I don't view as a future star to a 1-fight contract. So, like, all right, you're filling in. You're the top organization in the world. You can easily find bodies to fill in on fight cards. Do we need 12 fights? Do we need this fight? It's an Apex card. It's not like you're selling to a crowd. Like, you got to give as many as you want. Like, why waste our time? Neither one of these guys is UFC level. This is the Alicante. Listen, I'm cranky, guys. I'm cranky. Everyone got the extra hour of sleep. It just screwed up my sleep schedule, and I was at a softball field. I know I'm cranky. So I was cranky last week on the recap. I'm cranky this week. As far as this fight, who I think is going to win, watching Valentin, obviously he's been in the UFC a little longer. I don't think he's a UFC level fighter. You said he might have the advantage on the feet. I don't know, man. He's so bad on the feet. His striking is so ugly. He throws out like stupid spinning attacks. You get that one elbow KO on the Ultimate Fighter show, and he does a lot of spinning attacks because of it. He does kick a lot. His defense is bad. He backstraps the cage. His chin's high in the air. All his striking is to set up his entries because he wants to get to the fight to the ground. The problem is his wrestling is terrible. If he gets the fight to the ground, he is a good grappler. He's got a good top game, but he's one of the worst defensive wrestlers I've seen, like you mentioned in this last fight. And he plays way too much BJJ on his back. McVey, he's long and lanky, but he's not very fast. His hands are slow. He'll throw straight shots on the pike, which I like. He has some power, but defensively, he keeps his chin high in the air. He doesn't check leg kicks. He will close the distance and work in the clinch. I like his knees inside in there, elbows inside. He's not much of an offensive wrestler. He is a submission artist, but he's got bad submission defense. Go back to Fajeda fight. Fajeda easily mounted him and subbed him. This fight is so bad. I'm going the other way though. I'm picking McVey. I doubt I ever pick him again in the UFC fight as you mentioned. But I favor him on the feet. I think he pots shots from distance, avoids some takedowns from Valentin. Give me McVey in a very ugly decision and a very terrible fight.
All right, we have some disagreement right off the bat. I just hope one of us is right and one of these guys gets a win.
We get a no contest. They get to run it back.
Men's bantamweights take the cage next at UFC Vegas 111 as Miles Johns and Daniel Marcos come together in a sort of hastily thrown together matchup that's actually kind of appealing. Johns, the 31-year-old Kansas native fighting out of, well, Kansas or Missouri. 15-4 with 1 no contest overall. 6-4 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC out of season 3 of Dana White's Contender Series and as the former LFA bantamweight champ. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, the first losing streak of his entire career, dating back almost a full year. He lost a unanimous decision to Felipe Lima last December, then came back this August at UFC on ESPN 72 and dropped a split decision to Jean Matsumoto. John's looking to snap that losing streak. Will need to get past Marcos in order to do so. Marcos, 32-year-old Peruvian, 17-1 with 1 no contest overall, 4-1 with 1 no contest in the UFC. That is the good news. The bad news is that the lone career loss was in his last appearance. He fought at UFC on ESPN Sandhagen versus Figueiredo back in May, where he lost a unanimous decision to Montel Jackson. So Marcos looking to get back on track after his first career loss. He had been scheduled to take on Felipe Lima at UFC Qatar in a couple weeks. Johns was supposed to take on Muin Gafarov last weekend at UFC Vegas 110. They both lost their opponents for different reasons, so they're meeting this weekend. Line is pretty close, but Marcos is your moderate favorite. He's minus 170. Johns is plus 140 as the underdog. Keith, I would say that on paper, I actually like this matchup better than the original ones they had. And the other ones were not bad. Like Johns versus Gafarov was not bad. Marcos versus Felipe Lima was not bad. But I like this fight quite a bit. Tell me whether you disagree and tell me who you think wins.
Ben, I found out this matchup was happening 30 seconds ago. As soon as you said, hey, we're doing Johns and Marcos. So for time's purposes, because I didn't do any tape study, because when the both fights were canceled pretty early on, so I didn't do tape study on either one of these guys. I'm just going right off the top of my dome. I'm going to take Daniel Marcos. I think he's too fast for Miles Johns. I think Miles Johns is going to swing big in the air, tire himself out. He will obviously have a wrestling advantage, but I think I've thought his wrestling is completely faded over the years. I know he has been wrestling a lot more lately. I still don't trust it. Give me Marcos. I think Marcos is going to kick him. He's going to punch him. He's going to jab him. I think he's going to be too fast. It's whether he gets a late stoppage when Johns is completely gassed. I say he doesn't. But I say it's a pretty easy win for Marcos.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even though Johns is coming into this fight off of back-to-back losses, and again, the first losing streak of any kind of his career, I have been generally kind of encouraged by the way he's been fighting over the last, say, 2 years, even including the losses. Felipe Lima and John Matsumoto are both good fighters. He was competitive both times. And just the fact that Johns has gone back to being a bit of a wrestle boxer instead of a boxer that used to wrestle, I find encouraging. That and the fact that he's been in back-to-back competitive fights against good fighters, and I feel bad saying this, but didn't blow it. Like, he lost the fights, but the wheels didn't just completely fall off the wagon. Like, he didn't gas out and just basically quit, a minute into the third round. He didn't shoot straight into a guillotine. He didn't, try something spinning and just get clocked. Like, he's a guy that for a long time just seemed to find a way to either lose crucial fights or make fights harder than they needed to be. And I feel as though, he's 31, 32 now. He's definitely not a prospect anymore, but seemed to be settling into the type of guy that could be a fringe, like a guy that kind of flirts with the fringe of the top 15 for a couple of years. Again, despite the fact that he's coming in off back-to-back losses, but I do think Marcos is a tough ask. Like, Marcos has looked fantastic. Even in the fight against Montel Jackson, I just think Montel Jackson is really, really good. I think it's just recently that Jackson's really starting to get credit for how good his run has been. But this is a tough ask for Johns because even if he does try wrestling, I don't think there's any guarantee he gets Marcos down. And for as long as they hang out on the feet, Marcos is faster, has better reach. He might not have as much one-shot power as John's does, but I think John's one-shot power is a little overstated anyway. So yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think this is a pretty straightforward decision win for Marcos, and that's a bummer for John's, again, because I think he's arguably fighting as well as he ever has in the UFC, and I'm predicting he's about to be on a 3-fight losing streak. Assuming he performs decently, he might be notably absent from my cut list Saturday night, but I'm with you on this one. Give me Marcos by decision. Next up on the UFC Vegas 111 prelims is a strawweight matchup between Tecia Pennington and Denise Gomes. Pennington, the 36-year-old Floridian, 36-year-old New Englander by way of Florida, is 15-7 overall. She's 11-7 since joining the UFC out of season 20 of The Ultimate Fighter. She is on a 2-fight win streak dating back a little over a year. She won a unanimous decision over Carla Esparza at UFC 307 last October, avenging an early career loss, then picked up a unanimous decision over Luana Pinheiro this May at UFC Fight Night Burns versus Morales. She will look to make it 3 in a row, and despite being very, very deep into her distinguished career, prove that she's still kind of a factor in this division. In order to do so, she will need to get past Gomes. 25-year-old Brazilian is 11-3 overall. She's 5-2 since joining the UFC out of season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series. She is on a 3-fight win streak dating back 2 full years. She dropped a unanimous decision to Angela Hill in November of 2023. Since then, she has wins over Eduarda Moura, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and in her most recent outing at the same Burns versus Morales fight night, Elise Reed, whom she knocked out just seconds into the second round after whooping on her pretty good for the entire first round. So Gomes, at age 25, looking to vault herself into contention for the first time. Pennington for what feels like the 15th time. The younger woman is definitely favored. Gomes is -210, Pennington +170. It is a cool story that Tecia Pennington is back and at least competitive with the division that she's been in since literally the time it was brought into the UFC. She's been around for so long that I was a little surprised to realize she's only 36. I was getting ready to say she was like 39 or about to turn 40. I was about to do some math and see when she turns 40. She's only 36. Like, she came to the UFC super young, and she's someone who's kind of basically looked the same the entire time. If this fight were just a couple of years ago, I think there would be more upset potential here. Gomes, for somebody who's 5-2 in the UFC and beating good fighters, still very much feels like a work in progress. She still feels like an aggressive, athletic woman kind of in search of what her game is. Whereas, I mean, Pennington's game has been a known quantity from the beginning, but at 36, some of the things that made her special do seem to be slipping. Like, obviously, the nickname Tiny Tornado is it's definitely one of the most appropriate nicknames in UFC history. She is tiny, and she is a little whirlwind of action. She's always been one of the shortest women in the division. She's absolutely stacked with muscle. And yeah, she's been a high volume kickboxer for basically her entire UFC run. And it's been good enough to get her into the title picture at times. It's been bad enough to get her on the verge of being cut at times. But she does seem to be slowing just a little bit. She used to be reliably very high volume, and she used to be so athletic and so busy that she was able to make an outside kickboxing game work despite being shorter than all of her opponents except for Carla Esparza. That seems to be going away a little bit, and I do think that's bad news against Gomes, because I said that Gomes is an athlete in search of a game. The game she has so far is to come forward winging hard shots, try to get her hands on the other woman and throw her down on the ground, and then just, pound her into guacamole. Pennington has a little of the Angela Hill thing where her takedown defense is okay if it's the kind of takedown defense that involves using footwork and just not being there. The kind of takedown defense that involves actual underhooks and a sprawl is bad, and it always has been. And as Pennington has slowed down a little bit, and as her volume has slowed down a little bit, I do feel like her defensive wrestling has slipped. All this just adds up to a big advantage for Gomes. Like, I could see Gomes having trouble tracking down Pennington, especially in the early going. She doesn't cut off the cage well. Pennington still does, still is fast, has good lateral movements, but Gomes can afford to chase her and run at her because, one, Pennington doesn't really have the power to dissuade her. And yeah, Gomes is eventually going to get to Pennington, get her hands on her, probably throw her down. And Pennington, for someone who's a lousy defensive wrestler, is a pretty capable grappler and traditionally has been pretty good at blunting her opponent's offense on the ground and finding ways to get back up. But I think it's going to be a lot of that in this fight. And the whole time she'll be getting more tired. Gomes will be chipping away at her on top. Pennington remains incredibly tough. I'm going to pick this one to go the distance, but give me Gomes to win all 3 rounds and for Pennington to look pretty beat up by the end of it. I don't know if Gomes needs a coming out party at this point, but this is one that will, this is one that will.
T-shirt had hers.
Yeah. Yeah, considering that I mean, we knew her when she was Tecia Torres, like she definitely out, but I think Gomes is gonna wallop her pretty good here. Give me Gomes by decision, probably 30-27.
Yeah, I mean, Tecia at this point of her career, like I mean, we know what she does. She does the same thing she has really always done. There was a success to it, but there was also a ceiling to it, and the ceiling was never to be a UFC champion because, she's undersized, lacked power. I mean, she can fight out of both stances, and she has, her whole game is her footwork, moving with good output, kind of stay on the outside, and then blitz forward with fast hands. She attacks the combination. The problem is she's a point fighter. She lacks power. As you mentioned, her output has dropped. She has more movement and less punching. She has a good kicking game. She loves to end combos with kicks. Even though she's undersized, she can close the distance and work in the clinch. She has some judo throws in there, but again, I wouldn't call her much of a wrestler, especially from the outside, like shooting distance, takedowns. She has, I think you said it right, so takedown defense. I mean, she got thrown around by Luana Pinheiro, which was surprising to me. If she's taken down, though, despite being undersized, you would think being an undersized fighter, she would struggle to get back to feet. But she actually is pretty hard to hold down, and she has good cardio. She can continue to be on her bike, and she really won't slow down. Gomes, she's a good striker, I'd say. She's got nice output. She's constantly moving forward, throwing like hard shots. Bit of a slip and rip style, attacks with combinations. Defensively, she drops her hands. I haven't really got a good feel on her defense because sometimes she pillars, sometimes she shoulder rolls. She is heavy on her front foot. She's open to calf kicks. Because she's heavy on her front foot, she does have power. I mean, if she connects, she hits very hard. She really steps into her shots. Her overhand right is her best. She also has like a short, tight, straight right that I like. Her short hooks inside when she gets in the pocket is something to watch out for. She can throw a lot of kicks. She loves high kicks. She can close the distance, but she got beat up by Angela Hill in the clinch. So I don't know if that's an area that she's so much bigger than Tecia. You'd think she'd have an advantage, but I'm not sure if she does. She can shoot takedowns from the outside. I'd say her entries are fairly quick, but they're not that technical. She's a poor defensive wrestler, though she showed some improvement in her takedown defense against Eduardo Mora, though I don't expect Tecia to look for takedowns. When she's defended takedowns, she'll look for a switch, which I've said this over and over again, due to a wrestler's ability to lock hands in MMA, it doesn't really work as much as it does in amateur wrestling. She got headlocked by Loma Labumi a bunch of times in their fight. She struggled to get off the bottom against Angela Hill. But she does, for someone who throws so much power, she actually has a fairly decent gas tank. She's also super young, so she can still make big leaps in improvement. I think if this fight was 3 or 4 years ago. Taking Gomes now, I don't want to take her when she was 20, 21 years old. I think Torres would win this fight. Big thing besides the skill, it's just the motivation. Like, I'm not sure that she's all in. I mean, obviously she's living the married life, and obviously she's not the first fighter to be married and continue to fight at a high level. But she's out of the spotlight a lot. I think we got a pretty even striking battle, but Gomes is the one landing the hardest shots. So give me Gomes by decision.
Heavyweights take the cage next at UFC on ESPN 73 as we have debuting talents in Josh Hokit and Max Gimenis. Hokit, the 27-year-old Californian, is 6-0 as a professional. He fought on Dana White's Contender Series back in August, pounding out Guilherme Uriel on the ground early in the second round. Prior to that, he had made some appearances in the post PFL acquisition Bellator and then in LFA, but this is his UFC debut, and the same can be said for the man across from him, Gimenis. 32-year-old Brazilian by way of Maryland is 6-1 as a professional. He fought most recently at Shogun Fights down in Brazil back in March, picking up a first-round TKO over somebody you don't care who. Odds on this one are wide, and I mean, we'll talk about it in a sec, but I'm not sure what I expected, but I did not expect Hokit to be minus 400 and Gimenis plus 300. You never know what you're getting when the UFC signs a couple of 6-0, 6-1 heavyweights, but for what it's worth, this is a bit of a throwback, like Clash of Styles matchup. Hokit is a former college football player, but most importantly, a former All-American wrestler at Fresno State. He was an All-American in 2019 at 197 pounds.
Yeah,
where
not D1.
Fresno State is Fresno State not a D1?
No, it's like a D2. Yeah, it's a D2 school, I think.
Thank you. All right. A former D2 All-American at 197 pounds, where Gimenis is a multiple-time IBJJF no-gi, like Mundials medalist. He's never taken the gold medal, but I think he's a 3-time medalist overall at Mundials. So a relatively high-level former amateur wrestler against a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. But nonetheless, Hokit minus 400, Gimenis plus 300. I watched Hokit's fights were pretty easy to find because, he's been in PFL, he was on the Contender Series, and then he was in LFA, and, any promo that's on Fight Pass, pretty easy to find their fights. With Gimenis, I watched as many of his MMA fights as I could, and I actually watched some of his grappling because sometimes you can pick up some clues about how somebody's going to transfer over from another art by watching them compete in that discipline. These two guys have a few things in common. Neither of them are huge heavyweights. Like, I've seen both of them compete at, 240 some pounds looking not completely ripped. And then I've seen them both fight in like the high 220s looking pretty jacked. I have no idea what they're going to weigh in at on Saturday, but just saying they're both kind of medium-sized heavyweights. Watching Gimenis, the good news about him as an MMA prospect, and we kind of have to talk about this because none of the people he's fought in MMA are an indicator at all. Like, he's fought super low-level people. But watching him in grappling, he's good from top position as well as from guard, and he grapples a bit like a wrestler, which is, that's good news. The bad news is that his actual wrestling is not great. Like, takedown's not great. Mostly just, trying to get in and get kind of judo style trips and reaps in close. The huge line on Hokit makes sense if you believe that Hokit is just going to use his wrestling to stay upright and try to punch Gimenis out. But most of Hokit's best moments as an offensive fighter in MMA have involved him taking his opponent down and taking him down, pounding him out, and then, turning to his own grappling against them. Like, he's already got a pretty good bread and butter submission game. But if that's what he's going to do against Max Gimenis, I mean, he's definitely taking the riskiest route to victory. I favor him here because he's younger. I think he's might be naturally a little bit bigger. I think he's a better athlete. And again, he at least has the plausible route to victory that he could use as wrestling in reverse and just take his chances on the feet. Like, nothing I've seen out of Gimenis' striking is that promising. If I were a betting man, I wouldn't be touching Hokit at minus 400 with a 10-foot pole, but I do favor him to get the win here. Give me Hokit by, give me Hokit by TKO late. Give me Hokit by third round TKO. Like, I'm going to pick him to, again, try to keep things standing. I think Gimenis will probably get tired faster. He's a guy that seems to burn quite a bit of energy on the ground, like trying to secure takedowns and then trying to secure position. I think we see Hokit either really hurt Gimenis on the feet late, or once Gimenis is really tired, like take him down or follow him down and pound him out when he's really tired. But yeah, I don't see huge upside in either of these guys, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, so I got to correct something I said. So actually, Fresno State was Division I. They dropped the program, so they were Division I. So I apologize to Mr. Hokit. He took 5th place in 2019 in the 197-pound weight class. He got pinned in the second round of the competition in 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Trivia question: who pinned him?
Bo Nickel.
Mr. Bo Nickel. Yeah, so I honestly, I don't know. I don't remember him. So he came as a 16 seed. I apologize for not remembering Mr. Hokit. Based on the credentials of these guys, you think I'd be excited to see these guys. Gimenis, I only found one of his fights, and it was like over in like 30 seconds. It was filmed on someone's phone from the second deck.
Yep.
Looking at Fight Finder, I mean, he has faced nothing but tomato cans. He does have good power. He's got 4 TKOs, but honestly, I'm guessing they were like, there's a very good chance they were all from ground and pound. One fight I saw, he threw like a pretty hard calf kick. He is a high level grappler. I mean, he's got a lot of grappling competition. He's won a world championship again. Like, I don't think it was. I'm not.
I mean,
sure.
he won Mundials at the brown belt level and then got promoted to black belt. And again, he's medaled 3 times at black belt. Like, he is a very good grappler, like legit. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he will shoot for takedowns. He passes to position on the ground pretty easily. Obviously, he's a submission threat. Hokit, he's a good athlete. He's a former NFL player. I haven't seen too much of his stand-up. He throws a really big overhand right. He is a good wrestler. Good entries, also like some body lock takedowns. Of what I've seen, good top control, good ground and pound. He is a submission threat. So, honestly, anybody who says they have a read on this fight is full of shit. I have no idea. I've barely gotten to see much film on either one of these guys. Hokit is a wrestler, but he was an All-American 6 years ago. He played more football than wrestling. He was briefly part of the NFL, and I don't think he's in the wrestling room grinding it out, with Oklahoma State or something like this. What I've seen, he doesn't look like a special fighter. Gimenis, he's a high-level BJJ practitioner. He's a higher BJJ practitioner than Hokit is a wrestler. I'm going to say the Hokit instinctively goes for a takedown, and I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say Gimenis catches him with a sub. I'm going to say Gimenis catches him in the very first round. Give me Gimenis by first-round submission. And again, I have no confidence. I'm sure everyone's shocked I'm going against the wrestler. Maybe just because I'm ashamed that I didn't remember this guy. But give me his first round submission. I guess I'm taking a pretty hefty upset too.
Yeah. And again, that line is bananas. Like, neither of these guys has fought anyone very good.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get a Isaac Delgarian line change.
Hopefully not. Women's bantamweights take the cage next at UFC Vegas 111 as Mayra Bueno Silva squares off against Jaqueline Cavalcanti. Bueno Silva, the 34-year-old Brazilian, is 10-5-1 with one no contest overall. She's 5-5-1 with one no contest since joining the UFC as, trivia point that I'll always bring up, the very first fighter ever signed out of Dana White's Contender Series Brazil. At any rate, yeah, came in through the very first episode, very first fight at Dana White's Contender Series Brazil. Since then, 5-5 or 5-5-1 with one no contest in the UFC. 3-2 with one no contest at bantamweight. She has bounced back and forth between bantamweight and flyweight. She actually fought at flyweight her last time out. It was back in February at UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus Imavov, where she dropped a unanimous decision to Jasmine Jasudavicius. Prior to that, she had back-to-back losses at 135 against Raquel Pennington, which was a title shot, and Macy Chasson. Back at 135, looking to stem the bleeding of a 3-fight losing streak, she will have to get past Cavalcanti. 28-year-old from Portugal is 9-1 overall. She is 4-0 in the UFC. She's already fought once this year. It was back in February at UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Rodriguez, where she won a unanimous decision over Julia Avila. Odds on this one, perhaps unsurprisingly, favor the younger woman pretty heavily. Cavalcanti is -250, Bueno Silva +210. I'm done with Mayra Bueno Silva.
Okay, then let's get right to the prediction.
Let's get right to the prediction. I mean, here's the thing. One thing I'll give her is she is so big that it's always surprising to see her make flyweight, because she's one of the bigger bantamweights in the division, and yet as recently as 9 months ago, she made 125 again. But she looked so bad against Jasmine Jasudavicius. Like, it's one thing to lose to Raquel Pennington in a 5-round fight. You know, Pennington was the champ. It's another thing to kind of get pounded by Macy Chasson. Macy Chasson, when she's on weight and on focus, is a serious problem at 135. But against Jasudavicius, like, one, Jasudavicius just completely woman handled her. Just, I mean, out wrestled her, mauled her in the clinch, outstruck her for big stretches of the fight, just kind of dominated her. And Mayra Bueno Silva just looked cooked by the end of that fight. I don't remember whether I said it on the recap, but rewatching the fight yesterday or today, I just went, Mayra Bueno Silva looks like somebody that was going to quietly retire after this fight. She looked super done against Jasudavicius. I have no way of diagnosing what's going on between her ears, but considering that a year and a half ago she was fighting for a UFC title and just how rough it's been since then, I could see her looking at her climb back to that kind of relevance in the division and just looking at the rest of her contract as a series of paychecks. The problem with her performance in her last fight is she's going against someone in Cavalcanti who is even bigger. And while Cavalcanti isn't going to want to wrestle her the way Jasudavicius did, Cavalcanti is just like, there's not going to be any safe haven for Mayra Bueno Silva. Like, Cavalcanti would prefer to do an outside kickboxing battle, but it seems like in the UFC, she's gotten forced into close quarters battles by her opponents more often. But she's big enough and strong enough and athletic enough there that, I mean, she's 4-0 in the UFC. Like, nobody's really had much success with her in that kind of fight. I just struggle to see where Mayra Bueno Silva is going to win rounds here, let alone actually threaten Cavalcanti. I don't think she'll be able to take Cavalcanti down. I don't think she'll be able to kind of push her around in the clinch the way she is a lot of women in the UFC. And if she tries an outside striking match against Cavalcanti, Cavalcanti is younger, bigger, harder hitting, and faster. This is a bad matchup for Mayra Bueno Silva, even if I thought she was in her best state, her best competitive condition. give me Cavalcanti to just win a dominant decision here. Wins all 3 rounds. If there's a 10-8 in there where she's just teeing off on Bueno Silva while Bueno Silva is charging forward, trying to clinch and just like stem the mauling, that wouldn't surprise me either. I have Cavalcanti big in this one.
Yeah. This fight, this seems like a pass under the torch fight. Bueno Silva, she's a poor athlete. She tries to make up for her output on the feet, but as she's gotten older, that output has actually dropped. She still kind of marches forward. She will fight at both stances. She used to be a kickboxer, but I really think her striking has declined. She wants to get in the pockets for some tight punches, attack with combinations. She does have some power still, though I'd say she's a plus power puncher, but she really telegraphs her shots by constantly loading up. Her safe play, she likes to get to close the distance of wearing her opponents in the clinch, look for takedowns from distance. I'd say she's a solid wrestler for women's bantamweight standards. But
Brazilian women's bantamweight at that, yeah.
Sure. But I agree with you. I think she's slowed down in its decline. She is a submission threat. I mean, I always go back to when she caught Holly Holm in a beautiful ninja choke, which is, a great feat. She also armbarred Stephanie Egger. But she's a bad defensive wrestler. I mean, Marina Moroz looked like Helen Maroulis against her and taking her down over and over again. She plays BJJ off her back too much, and she gassed in her biggest fight against Raquel Pennington. Cavalcanti, she's a good athlete. She moves a lot. She likes to get her opponents to chase her because she's a good distance striker. She switches stances a lot. I'd say she is a good striker, very, very relaxed and poised, quick hands, accurate, throws a lot of combinations. She got a great straight right. She does also have some pop in her hands. She's good at hitting or slipping out of range or landing, slipping out of range, and then attacking again. So kind of being first and third. I like her defense. She moves her head well. She parries punches. She's got a big kicking game, hard calf kicks. Though she will throw some kicks without a setup, and she doesn't check leg kicks. Not much of an offensive wrestler, but she's shown fairly good takedown defense, and she's got good cardio. I mean, she can go deep into fights. So to me, I mean, this is a easy pick. I like Cavalcanti here. I think she's too fast. She's too technical on the feet. I think Bueno Silva is going to try to chase her down, and she's just going to walk into shots. I think Cavalcanti wins easily. It's not the boldest lock, but this is going to be my lock for the night. This is an easy pick.
Men's bantamweights are up next at UFC on ESPN 73 as Adrian Yanez and Cristian Quinonez square off. Yanez, the 31-year-old Houstonian, is 17-6 overall. He is 6-3 since joining the UFC out of Season 4 of Dana White's Contender Series and as a former LFA bantamweight title challenger. He is coming in off a loss, and he has, in fact, lost 3 of his last 4. He fought most recently almost a year ago. It was last December, the UFC's last card of 2024. It was the Covington versus Buckley card, where he fought to a competitive split decision loss against Daniel Marcos, whom we just talked about a few minutes ago. Prior to that, he had a win over Vinicius Salvador, but yeah, it's been almost 18 months since Yanez had his hand raised in the octagon. He's going to try to remedy that here against Quinonez. 29-year-old Mexican, 18-5 overall, 1-2 in the UFC. He won his UFC debut at this point 3 years ago. Since then, he has back-to-back losses, both by submission. That's the bad news. The worst news is that they've been coming at a 1 fight per year clip. We haven't seen him in the cage since last February, where he got tapped out in the 3rd round by Hani Barcelos, whom we will be talking about in a little while. Prior to that, it was all the way back in summer of 2023 against Kyung Ho Kong. So Quinonez, with the dual problems of being out often and not winning fights, trying to snap that streak, he is not favored to get it done. Yanez is a comfortable favorite here at -240, Quinonez plus 190. Adrian Yanez has had a bit of a roller coaster ride in the UFC. I mean, I was as excited as could be when he got signed out of LFA and Fury into the UFC. I mean, he was like 26, 27 years old. He was clearly the standout talent from this part of Texas. Like, he was, easily the best young up and coming fighter in Greater Houston, probably in all of Texas at the time. And he immediately, I think he won his first 5 or 6 fights in the UFC. He looked like instantly one of the best strikers in the division. I said, and I certainly wasn't the only one, I can't wait to see what happens when he runs into Sean O'Malley, and then boom, he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. However, if you look more closely at the losses, they're not all created equal. Like his losses in 2023, where he lost back-to-back fights to Rob Font and Jonathan Martinez, those were concerning because both of those were pure striking battles of the sort that are supposed to be Yanez's wheelhouse. Because he had a couple of local losses here in LFA early in his career, but they both involved him getting out-wrestled. Like Levi Moles just definitely out-wrestled him. And then Miles Johns, like it was kind of a mix of wrestling him and striking set up by the threat of the wrestling. But against Font and Martinez, he just straight up lost 2 striking battles. And against Font was especially concerning because Font just straight up outboxed him, and Font was supposed to be kind of this gatekeeper on his way out. I mean, that was supposed to be a passing of the torch moment for Yanez, and instead he got knocked out in like 3 minutes. Just he was jabbing, Font was coming back with a better jab. Font was like punishing Yanez for pillaring, just like wrapping punches around his guard and boxing him on his ears. When Yanez tried to get it back, Font is like sidestepping and nailing him with uppercuts. Just he got outclassed as a boxer by Font, and then Jonathan Martinez wrecked him with leg kicks and did it quickly. Like the TKO came in the second round, but Yanez was toast by the end of the first. Against Daniel Marcos in his most recent bout, even though that was almost a year ago, yeah, he lost the split decision, but a few people even scored it for him. I didn't, but he was very competitive against a very promising young up-and-comer in the division, and just seemed to be reclaiming a little bit of that top 10 upside that he seemed to have. I've talked a lot about him because I have no idea what the hell we're getting out of Cristian Quinonez. I can't believe he's still only 29 years old. Like I figured, I assumed he'd be older than Yanez. Like he's been in the UFC for like 4 years now. He's fought once a year. On the good side, he is a good kickboxer himself. He's long, lanky, rangy. At his best, like fighting in like Combate and his on the Contender Series, and you know, at least in his early UFC run, he did a good job of using his reach and speed and trying to fight and outfight, kind of moving all the way in when his opponents forced the issue. But he looked so hapless on the ground against both Kyung Ho Kong and Hani Barcelos. I don't see Yanez threatening him there, even though Yanez is actually a surprisingly good offensive wrestler. That just isn't the way his mind works. And if you're watching this, you know that something I harp on a lot is what fighters actually want to do and what their muscle memory and instincts make them do in the moment is at least as important as what they've been trained to do. So for better or for worse, I think this turns into probably a pure kickboxing match until or unless one guy gets desperate. I do favor Yanez in that, in view of a lot of unknowns. Again, we haven't seen Quinonez in a long, long time, but give me Yanez to win a decision here. I'm basing that off of the most recent work I've seen out of both of these guys. Yanez, even though he lost his last fight, seems to be coming back into fulfilling more of his like potential, whereas Quinonez, I'm not sure what we're getting, but he hasn't looked good in a couple of years.
I don't know if he looked good ever, but at least not the UFC. Yeah, I mean, Adrian Yanez is someone that I think everyone was excited when he first came to the UFC, and he has had flashes of brilliance. I still would view him as a good striker, very poised. One knock I've had on him is sometimes he's too relaxed. He cruises at times. He kind of gives away rounds. He's got fast hands. He's accurate. He just touches until he finds an open, then he explodes. Very good at wrapping his punches around his opponent's pillars. He mixes up his rhythm and picking up his opponent's timing. I like when he's slipping shots and he's countering, though he kind of needs the his opponent to kind of really bring a brawl at him so he can up his own output and land the better shots. He does a lot of dipping, a lot to the right. I've said it before. He's open to high kicks on that side. He does has good power. I mean, he showed against Vinicius Salvador. He sneaks in a high kick, which he throws behind his strikes, which I like. His punches. Doesn't check kicks though. Jonathan Martinez battered him with leg kicks. A big concern I have is his durability. I mean, he's been hurt in a bunch of fights, even like low level guys, like a Randy Costa. I mean, it was like forever ago, but he hurt him. Obviously, Rob Font had like a career resurgence against him.
I mean, Davey Grant is one of our guys, but he was supposed to wipe out Davey Grant, and Grant went toe-to-toe with him and hurt him. Yeah,
especially at that time. So I'm worried about that. He's a weak offensive wrestler and he's a weak defensive wrestler. He does have, a pretty decent get-up game. He does play BJJ off his back sometimes, but he isn't like that much of a submission threat. Like he can catch something, but he's not. He's not Charles Oliveira. Quinonez is athletic. He moves a lot. He's a boxer. He's got those really long arms. He's an outfighter. He loves a long jab. He follows with some good right uppercut, fairly quick hands, good power. He's got like 10 TKOs. The problem is his defense. He's very hittable. He keeps his hands wide. He stands tall. He keeps his chin high in the air. He's been rocked in a bunch of fights. He can wrestle a little. I think he actually has a wrestling advantage here. The problem is his submission defense. He's been subbed a bunch of times. Jaime Barcelos subbed him. He has good cardio though. So as far as prediction go, I am leaning Yanez too because I think he has the power advantage. But I'm not very confident I pick it. Like you seem like you're more on him returning to being like a borderline top 15 guy than I am. I think the line could be a little bit closer, but I think we're gonna get mostly a stand-up contest. And if someone goes for takedowns, it'd be Quinonez, but I think Yanez still hurts him a few times. I think that's gonna be enough. I think he gets the win of that. Give me Yanez by unanimous decision.
Next up at UFC on ESPN 73, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a featherweight matchup between Hyder Amil and Jamall Emmers. Amil, the 35-year-old Californian, is 11-1 overall. He is 3-1 since joining the UFC out of Season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series. That's the good news. The bad news is that the one loss is in his last outing. After coming to the UFC at the beginning of last year, winning his first 3 fights, he ran into Jose Delgado in June at UFC 317 and got kneed to the dome in 30 seconds and knocked out. So a quick and brutal end to his undefeated run. He's going to look to get back in the win column here against Emmers. 36-year-old, also from California, 21-8 overall, 4-4 since joining the UFC as a veteran of Season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. But he lost on the Contender Series, went back and won a couple more fights in California, got signed, and since then he has been alternating losses and wins throughout. 4-4. He did win his last time out. It was back in March at UFC on ESPN, Moreno versus Urseg, where he knocked out Gabriel Miranda in the first round. So if the pattern holds, he is due for a loss. He's certainly going to hope to break that trend. The odds makers think it's going to keep it up, however, as Amil is the slight favorite. He's minus 140, Emmers plus 115. Keith, it's a shame that in all their time together, like in Strikeforce and in various California promotions, that Gilbert Melendez and Bobby Green never fought, because then there would be some extra story value behind this, since Hyder Amil is the striking coach at El Nino Training Center, and Emmers is, of course, Bobby Green's longtime teammate and training partner. However, we just have to evaluate this fight on its own merits. Tell me who you think wins, how you think the fight plays out.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the fights I think I'm probably most interested in on the card. I think it's, what would you say the betting line was?
It's close. Amil is minus 140, Emmers plus 115. And okay. I should mention, Amil is not a super short notice replacement, but Emmers was supposed to fight Austin Bashi. Bashi fell out a few weeks back. Amil is in, but yeah, Amil's still the
yeah. He's probably not as well-rounded as Bashi is, but he's probably more dangerous, if that makes sense. Emmers, I mean, he's very big for the weight class. He's long and lanky. I've said this before, but I don't have a good read on him, and that's because he looks great one fight, and then he looks bad another. Good. Now I'll talk about the good of him. He's got high output. He wants to press the action. That's why when he went against Kyle Nelson, he hated when the pressure was put on him. He's got quick hands. He's accurate. He likes to work from the outside, behind a good jab, a nice straight right. He works the body a lot. I love his stepping knees. He has really good power, though he'll sometimes overthrow his shots. Defensively, he backs straight up on the center line to avoid shots. When he will close the distance and grind in the clinch. He's got that big, long frame. He uses it to blast away with knees. He's a good wrestler. He chain wrestles, good entries, good at winning scrambles. I always go back to like the Jack Jenkins one. He did really well on top in that fight. That was a good win for him. His submission threat, but he's taken a lot of damage over the years. I mean, he got knocked out by Landwehr, so that's something concerned. Amil, I mean, he's a very aggressive striker, nonstop action, high volume. I go back to that Ji Young Lee fight. I said he's like a 40 punch combination in that fight. He fights like I said, he fights like a madman. Sorry. He switches stances a lot. He will hang his hands low. When he slides in the pocket and gets inside, he works the body really well. He's got massive power. Can end a fight with one punch. He likes to close the distance and grind the clinch also. He can sneak in a takedown, but I definitely wouldn't call him a wrestler, and I'd probably favor Emmers in the wrestling category. He's a bad defensive wrestler, but he makes it easier because he defends takedowns by looking like for Kimura's and stuff like that. But because of his size, he's hard to hold down, and he is a solid grappler, though sometimes he'll rush positions to try to get a submission, so he'll like lose a position doing it. I'm also worried that he fights very aggressive. I'm worried that he won't be as aggressive after he just got knocked out. And I'm worried about his chin. I'm always worried about somebody after they return from the chin. So this is a wild fight. I like both guys. I kind of flip-flopped a little bit, so I'm glad the line was close. But the pressure, the power, if Amil fights like he normally does, I'm going to lean Amil. I say he presses Emmers. Emmers doesn't like the pressure. And I say Amil catches him with something. Give me Amil by first round TKO.
I feel as though Emmers is better than I give him credit for. Like I just mentioned and kind of made a big deal out of the fact that he's 4-4 in the UFC and he's just literally alternated losses and wins throughout. But it's worth looking closer at it because, for one thing, his UFC debut against Giga Chikadze, he lost a split decision, and I know I'm in the minority on this one, but I actually scored it for Emmers. But even if you think Chikadze should have won, that was a very encouraging debut, partly because, one, Chikadze jumped on him right from the beginning. Like, he rocked him within the first minute. He hit him with that, like, just nasty Giga kick, the kind of, like, front kick to the liver that he's actually finished people in the UFC with. Like, Emmers was in all kinds of trouble in the first round and came back to arguably win the fight, not just taking advantage of Chikadze on the ground late, but actually holding his own in the striking for the last 12 minutes of the fight. Similarly, like, he dropped a split decision to Jack Jenkins. That I'm not in the minority there. Like, I just checked MMAdecisions.com. Everybody scored that for Emmers, and Jenkins has turned into a damn good fighter. Like, won or loss, that performance has aged well. Having said that, his other losses have seen, like, he's not looked good in either of them. Pat Sabatini tapping him out quickly is not that surprising. Like, Sabatini's a very good wrestler and an outstanding grappler. Emmers has trouble with takedown defense, and yeah, getting run over on the ground by Sabatini is not that big a deal. And then, yeah, losing to Nate Landwehr isn't, like, it's not the end of the world, but getting finished in the first round by Nate Landwehr is the weird look. Like, that fight is supposed to go, Emmers jumps all over Landwehr early, and Landwehr survives and wears him down. So to get caught repeatedly early by Landwehr, in light of just like the differential in speed those two had in the cage, is a little concerning. That's kind of what makes me reluctant to look for the upset potential here, because Amil, like, for all the reasons you said, he's fast, he's super hard hitting, he throws in combination, so he has excellent power, and then gives himself every chance to put that power on the other guy's chin. Because of that, I lean the same way you do here. Give me Amil by first round knockout. The 6-fight main card of UFC Vegas 111, begins with a middleweight matchup between Cristian Leroy Duncan and Marco Tulio. Duncan, the 30-year-old Englishman, is 12-2 overall. He's 5-2 since joining the UFC as the outgoing Cage Warriors middleweight champ. He is on a 2-fight win streak. Since losing a unanimous decision to Gregory Rodriguez last summer, he has a win over Andre Pulyaev this March. And then in his most recent outing in August, he knocked out Eric Anders with a spinning back elbow. That was at UFC on ESPN Delize versus Hernandez. So Duncan looking for his third win in a row, his first 3-fight win streak in the UFC. In order to get it, he will need to get past Tulio. 31-year-old Brazilian is 14-1 overall. He is 2-0 since joining the UFC as a 2-time veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought on Season 7 back in 2023 and won, was not immediately signed. He came back last summer and knocked out Matthew Duclos in the second round. That got him signed. Since then, 2-0 with a knockout of Ior Bateria back in January and a knockout of Tresean Gore at UFC 314 in April. So Tulio looking to go 3-0 in the UFC, and he is moderately favored to do so. He is minus 190, Duncan plus 160. I've got to say I was a little surprised at the line here. I expected this one to be... I expected it to be a dead pick'em, or if one person was favored, I kind of expected that it might be Duncan. But I like both of these guys. I think they both have... I would not be surprised if both these guys ended up being in the top 15 at some point, partly because they're both pretty talented fighters with some standout offensive tools, partly because middleweight is what it is. It's a thin division, and it's a division where two guys like this, who are definitely strikers by preference, can actually like make a lot of hay before they run into somebody that's gonna, take advantage of their limitations. Both of these guys favor a lot of the same techniques. Like, they're both good kickers. They both have big power. They both prefer to set up from outside and kind of like let their opponent come to them. I'm gonna lean with the upset here. Like, I think I like Duncan's. I like both guys' kicks. I like Duncan's kicks better. Just, they're fast. They, they'll come out of both stances. They seem to hurt everybody they land on. See him against somebody that's probably not going to try to catch kicks and take him down, I think is going to embolden him. Give me Duncan to win a decision here. Just hurting Tulio a few more times than Tulio hurts him. I think this is probably going to be a pretty exciting fight, pretty competitive fight. I'll take Duncan in the moderate upset.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is one of the best fights on the card. I think it's very competitive. I think both guys are kind of sneaky. I don't want to say contenders, but sneaky, like, tough outs for anybody in the division. Duncan, he's a big guy for the weight class, very good athlete. He moves well, nice footwork. He does really well from distance. He's one of the few fighters that has a lot of like hand fighting from distance, which he can do because of his size. He hates being pressured though. He can fight at both stances. He's got quick hands. He's accurate. He uses feints well to set up his shots. He attacks with combinations. He's one of the guys who throws great uppercuts inside. I see he has plus power. I like that he started throwing some like elbows inside when his opponent gets close. That's kind of nasty. He does defensively stand a little too tall for my liking, keep his chin high. He was hit way too much by Gregor Rodriguez in that fight. But that was, I feel like it might have been a little bit too soon for him. But he's got a big kicking game, kicks to all parts of the body. I like his teep kicks. He loves to follow like inside kicks into punching combinations, which is something you don't see a lot in MMA. He'll toss out some spinning attacks, wheel kicks, spinning back fists. He started going airborne a lot in his last fight, like flying knees and stuff. That's all fun. But he can wrestle too. He wrestles a lot. He's a solid wrestler. If he gets to fight the ground, he's got good ground and pound. He's shown solid takedown defense himself, and he showed good submission defense against Gregor Rodriguez. Tulio, he looked great against who was the last opponent? Trishan Gore. Yeah, he's a tremendous athlete. He's explosive. He's a counter striker. He's very aggressive. He throws a power jab. He likes to lead with rear punches, which we don't see a lot. Like he'll throw his like lead right often. He goes to the body a lot. He loves to brawl, and that's because he has big power. He's got 10 TKOs. Now he can overthrow his punches, which could lead for possible takedowns for Duncan. He has got a big kicking game. He likes teep kicks. He'll throw some spinning attacks himself. He's got a spinning wheel kick KO. He mixes punches and kicks together well. He does have some defensive issues. He's a bit of a plotting stationary target. He will look for takedowns, but I definitely would not call him a wrestler. He needs to improve his takedown defense. He's, and I don't think he's, this like master in jiu-jitsu. So I think this is a great matchup. Like I said, I like both guys. But we got a consensus upset pick. I'm picking Duncan here. I just think the threat of the takedowns, it gives him like a slight edge in some very close rounds. He's shown me that he's also seems like he's a very intelligent fighter, knows where he has an advantage and tends to like find ways to get there. I think both guys will have their moments, but I'm going to say Duncan wins a split decision.
Next up on the UFC on ESPN 73 main card is a welterweight clash between Muslim Salikhov and Uros Medic. Salikhov, the 41-year-old Dagestani, is 22-5 overall. He's 10-4 in the UFC, and he is on a 3-fight win streak. Since getting knocked out by Randy Brown about 18 months ago, he has wins over Santiago Ponzinibbio, Song Kenan, and Carlos Leal. The most recent of those, the Leal fight, was a stunning one-shot first-round knockout in about 40 seconds back at UFC on ABC, Whitaker versus DeRitter in July. And not only did he get the sensational knockout, he was one of the biggest underdogs on the card. So an eye-opening performance. He's going to look to make it 4 in a row and go on an unlikely run in his 40s in this division if he can get past Medic. 32-year-old Bosnian American by way of Alaska, by way of Southern California, is 11-3 overall. He is 5-3 in the UFC. He's coming in off a win. He's already fought twice this year. He got knocked out in 30 seconds by Puna Soriano back in January, came back in August at UFC on ESPN, Delize versus Hernandez, and knocked out Gilbert Urbina in the first round. So he's looking to start up a new win streak. He is favored to get it done. Medic is minus 180, Salikhov plus 150 as the underdog. It's obviously a lot of fun that Muslim Salikhov at age 41 is in danger of going on a 4-fight win streak in the UFC welterweight division. I mean, he's a kind of medium-sized, dad bod, dumpy looking dude. I mean, he's been in the UFC for a few years now, but he's looked like he was in his 40s the whole time. he's yeah, for sure. We got
to announce that he's the third member of the podcast.
pretty much. Like, and the thing is, he's not made the kind of concessions to age that you often see out of grizzled veteran fighters that are still making it happen in their 40s. Like, he's not doing any Andrei Arlovsky, Jim Miller type retooling of his game to be able to survive. Like, he still throws a lot of spinning shit. He still wants to engage in an out to middle range kickboxing match, even against guys that are taller, younger, faster than him. Sometimes it doesn't go his way. I mean, he got completely obliterated by Randy Brown, but other times it's worked just fine. I mean, he iced Song Kenan with a spinning wheel kick less than a year ago. I don't know if he's the oldest person to get a spinning wheel kick knockout in UFC history, but he's got to be up there. And then obviously the Leal fight, it was an incredible upset. It was an incredible moment, but it's a reminder that it's not all smoke and mirrors and spinning shit with him. He can just sit down on a right cross and just crush a dude, including a very good striker and an up and coming prospect who was like 10 years younger than him. I kind of get why he's the underdog against Medic. I mean, I just mentioned Salikhov fighting guys that are younger, bigger, maybe faster. But Medic is a kickboxer by preference as well. And while he's big for the division, he was definitely big for 155, which is what he fought at when he got to the UFC. He throws good volume, but for a guy that has an actual kickboxing background outside of MMA, I think he's a little stiff on the feet. And this is a fight where both guys are probably going to tag each other. And it feels weird to say about the 41-year-old, but I think I might trust Salikhov's durability more than Medic's. I think the two most likely outcomes of this fight are Salikhov by first round knockout and Medic by first round knockout, because that's just the kind of fighters both of them are. Give me Salikhov in the upset. I'm going to take Salikhov by first round knockout here. But if it goes past the first round, the fact that Salikhov is still a sneaky good offensive wrestler, especially when guys forget that he knows how to do that because it's the second round and he's been a pure kickboxer the whole time. I think he could take Medic down and sock away rounds that way too. But I don't think it gets there. I got Salikhov to pull it off one more time by first round knockout.
Yeah, when he gives you a spinning wheel kick to like the solar plex, you don't really think, he's gonna shoot a double leg next. Like, you're not thinking about that. Or he gives you a spinning back fist to the dome. You're not thinking, I gotta watch out for the high crotch coming in. So, yeah, I mean, Salikhov, he's such a fun guy. You mentioned dude's 40 years old. That does disturb me because like you said, he hasn't changed. So the way he fights someone who needs to be a good athlete. And if his athleticism declines, like his entire game could fall apart. I mean, because he moves so well. He's a good striker. He's accurate. He's a bit of a slip and rip striker. Good at slipping his head off the center line and then ripping his own straight shots down the pike. He's good at picking up his opponent's timing. He has big power, and that's because he keeps his base on him to land shots. He just knocked out Carlos Tulio. He likes to work from distance. That's why he hated the pressure from Santiago Ponzinibbio. Incredible kicking game. Kicks to all areas of the body, hard calf kicks, a bunch of spinning attacks. One of the guys, actually, the spinning attacks really works well for him. He's got big knockout to me. He knocked out Andre Fiallo with a spinning attack. He knocked out Kenan Song with a spinning attack. I think I'm a little more worried about his chin than you are. I mean, he got knocked out by Li Jingliang, knocked out by Randy Brown, but both those guys are really good fighters. Took a lot of damage by Nicholas Dalby, but that's what Nicholas Dalby does. So I love that you mentioned his wrestling because he can sneak a takedown, and he wrestles more than people think. He has a good reactionary double. He does need to improve his control. He needs to improve his own takedown defense. He does have 3 submission wins, but it's still not something I think is a threat. Managed southpaw, long and lanky, high output striker, constantly on the gas, can be reckless at time. He's actually better when he calms down and just works in distance. He's not a bad kickboxer from distance. Go back to like Omar Morales, Matthew Selmsberger. He was just keeping them at the end of the punches, accurate shots. Because of his aggressive style, he bites him in the ass a little bit, and he gets hit a lot. And they go back to like Jalen Turner fight, Puna Soriano. Like he gets rocked. And he also stands straight up when he's being pressured. He loves some spinning attacks. We could have like 2 tops spinning at each other. I've said it before. He kind of reminds me of Alexander Slamenko, and then like, taller Alexander Slamenko. But then I'm like, he's going to get Salikhov, who is pretty much Alexander Slamenko. So obviously he knocked out Summersberger with incredible spinning elbow, though he showed control and pace against Morales. He will use his long strikes to close the distance, get in the pocket. I've said it before, like similar to like a Tim Means did in his run. He loves push kicks to his opponents, right up the middle, but he also will push like their like on their knees, similar to the John Jones. Not much of an offensive wrestler. He's a bad defensive wrestler. Really struggles to get back to his feet too. He can catch submissions off his back. He's got those long legs, long arms, so he looks for knee bars and heel hooks. But I'm worried about his durability. He's been hurt a bunch on his feet. So I would be really surprised if this fight goes the distance based on the way these guys fight, based also on the way these guys, we've seen their chin rock before. Both guys hit too hard. I'm with you, though. I'm surprised by the betting odds. I think Menage he's just too hittable, and I don't trust his chin. I think Salikhov hurts him early, and we got it the same exact way. I think he puts him out early. Give me Salikhov by first round TKO.
Men's bantamweights take the cage next at UFC Vegas 111 as Ricky Simón and Hani Barcelos face off. Simón, the 33-year-old Washington State native, is 22-6 overall. He is 13-5 since joining the UFC out of the very first season of Dana White's Contender Series. He is on a 2-fight win streak. He lost 3 straight fights in 2023 and 2024. Perhaps looking like he was on his way out of the UFC or at least out of divisional relevance. But this year he's come back and won 2 straight over pretty credible opponents in Javid Basharat, whom he knocked out in February, and then Cameron Smotherman, whom he defeated by unanimous decision in June at UFC on ESPN Usman versus Buckley. Simón will look to make it 3 in a row and reassert himself as a fringe contender in this division against Barcelos. 38-year-old Brazilian is 20-5 overall. He's 9-4 since joining the UFC as the former RFA bantamweight champ. That's how long he's been in the UFC. He's the former RFA bantamweight champ because there was no LFA yet. Anyway, kind of like Simón, he seemed to have fallen on hard times and maybe be on his way out, but he is on a 3-fight win streak now. Dating back to the beginning of last year, he has wins over Cristian Quinonez, whom we've already talked about, Peyton Talbot, whom he defeated at UFC 311 in January, and Cody Garbrandt, his most recent victim, who that fight took place on the very same Usman versus Buckley card in June that Simón fought on. So Barcelos looking for his 4th straight win, Simón for his 3rd straight. The line is fairly close, but Simón is your favorite. He is -160, Barcelos +130. Keith, I'm going to flip this to you first. All I'll throw out there...
Please don't.
All I'll throw out there is I was mildly surprised to realize these guys haven't fought each other yet. They've been in the division so long, and kind of in the same, like, I just feel like these guys have both been in that 8 to 18 range in the same division for so long. I kind of assumed that they had fought once in like 2016 or something. They haven't. Tell me who wins, what the fight looks like.
Dude, how great would this fight have been, like
2019, 2018. Yeah.
I'll say like 6-7 years ago, it would have been great. There you go. Hashtag that for you young kids. Ben's too old to know what I just did. I just got our views through the roof now.
Was that like a bit of Zoomer slang, a Gen Alpha thing? That's
yes. Yeah. You lived under the rock, man. I didn't realize I was so much more hip than you. But Ricky Simón, he's still a pretty good athlete. He's a very physically strong guy. He's a classic wrestler boxer. His volume has greatly decreased. I mean, his volume against Vinicius Oliveira was very low, but he still has fairly fast hands. He attacks with combinations, does well to slide in the pocket and unload big shots. He works the body well. He is very hittable though. That's because he lacks head movement. He also is he also brawls a lot and gets in the pocket, but he has power still. I mean, he knocked Javid Basharat dead. Yep. He has hard calf kicks. He doesn't check leg kicks. He's a very, I don't say very good wrestler. He's a wrestler. But I think his wrestling's declining. When he shoots, he doesn't drive through the hips anymore. He does. I think he's better when he has like reactionary doubles. And someone actually reached out to me. This was a while ago. What's a reactionary double? It's just a way I'm saying is when someone presses you and you kind of use their pressure coming forward and you lower their level. It's like an old classic youth wrestler, what they call the push pull double. Where you push the guy forward and then you pull him over you as you shoot.
Yeah.
if he, so he's good like that, but obviously he's not push pulling, but the point is that they're they're throwing big punches. You drop underneath a punch and you're in. So that's why I think he's better. If he gets the fight down, fairly good top control. He has the mindset to work slowly. Though he did struggle to keep Song Yadong down in that fight. That was a while ago, but that was like the last really good fighter he fought. He likes headed arm chokes. He gassed late against Mario Batista, but again, that was a really high paced fight. For only a three round fight, and another really, really good fighter. Barcelos, he has also shown signs of decline, but then he looked good again. So I'm not really sure where he stands. He's a technical striker, likes to counter strike. He did pressure Cody Garbrandt really well in their fight. He does keep his hands too wide for my liking, though, but he's good at slipping and ripping. He's got a great right hand. He showed decent hand speed against Trevin Jones. He fakes his jab low and then falls with a straight right over the top, which I really like. He has some pop. He struggled to get past the kicks of Umar Nurmagomedov, so that's something not necessarily against Simone, but yeah, that's also Nurmagomedov is a stud, but struggling with faster, rangier kind of guys. Big kicking game himself, though. Hard calf kicks. Doesn't check leg kicks. He is good at striking and wrestling together, and he's a good wrestler. I'd say he's a great wrestler. He has shown some good takedown defense himself. If he gets the fight to the ground, which he often does, he's a very good top controller, great grappler, great back takes. I mean, I know it was a long time ago, but it meant a lot at that time. He out-grappled Saeed Nurmagomedov. He has a submission threat. I'm worried about his chin. I mean, Umar knocked him out with a short shot. He's taken a lot of damage, but he showed really improved cardio against Cody Garbrandt. So I don't remember who you said the favorite was, but I'm picking Barcelos. I like both of them. I think both have shown signs of decline, but they also showed flashes of their prime could still be in them. I just like Barcelos' volume. I think he has better volume. I think he can stop any takedowns from Simone. He might even get a takedown himself. But give me Barcelos by decision in a fight that I think the gap widens between the two fighters as the fight moves along. I think it'd be more competitive in the first, but by the third, I think Barcelos will be really taking over. Give me Barcelos by decision.
I love it. Here's the thing. You covered a lot of things that I kind of wanted to highlight. So save me some time. It's worth noting. And you know what? If you're watching this, you probably know how I roll. Like I owe you the truth. I tried to be nice about things. I try to be diplomatic, but I'm just going to spit this out. Like Hany Barcelos had lost 4 out of 5 fights heading into the end of 2023. And the one fight in those 5 that he won against Trevin Jones, he didn't look fantastic, and it was against a lower level guy in Jones. He's 3-0 since then, and that happens to coincide with the UFC moving away from USADA and picking up a new doping partner. A whole lot of fighters on the wrong side of age 35 started looking really good last year out of nowhere, and and for what it's worth, I'm not calling him a cheat because I don't especially care.
Yeah, he looked great against Peyton Talbot too. And that was an upset that I called.
And he looked great against Peyton Talbot. And guess what? Peyton Talbot is a super young guy that fights at a furious pace.
Sure.
And then Keith said it. His gas tank looked great against Cody Garbrandt. 1, Cody Garbrandt is obviously very faded at this point, but 2, again, 2024 and 2025, the overarching narrative is a lot of older fighters that we assumed were shot are all of a sudden looking great. It's
good for them.
It's I agree with you, Keith, that Simone's wrestling, especially at this stage in his career, is definitely overrated or at least overstated. And Barcelos' wrestling has always been underrated. Like, yeah, I flat out think he's going to be the more effective wrestler.
Yeah, I agree.
And even more important, like, his wrestling is important because it feeds into the kind of grappler he is at his best. Like, his grappling wouldn't be as effective as it is if he didn't have a reliable way to get fights to the ground with him on top. Between that and the other thing you mentioned that, yeah, despite the fact that he's 38, halfway to 39, I trust Barcelos more in the second half of this fight than I do Simone. For those reasons, I'm with you. It is 3 unanimous upset picks in a row that I'm sure that is a first. But yeah, 3 unanimous upset picks in a row to open up this main card. I've got Barcelos by decision as well.
Nice. So we had Duncan, Salikhov, and Barcelos.
Yep.
Nice.
And for what it's worth, out of the 3, this is the only one where I even feel like I'm picking an upset. I was just flat out surprised in the other 2 that Duncan was the underdog and Salikhov was the underdog.
I feel Duncan's the one I'm a little worried about, but Barcelos, to me, being the underdog, it's like, yeah, that's the continued for his entire career being doubted.
Third from the top at UFC Vegas 111 is a lightweight matchup between Chris Padilla and the older but smaller of the Bonfim brothers, Ismael Bonfim. Padilla, the 30-year-old Californian, is 16-6 overall. He is 3-0 since joining the UFC as the outgoing UNF lightweight champ. He made his debut last April, tapping out James Yontop. Since then, he has wins over Rong Zhu, and in his most recent appearance this March, Jai Herbert, whom he defeated by split decision at UFC Fight Night Edwards versus Brady. So Padilla looking to make it 4 in a row to start his UFC run. Kind of came out of nowhere, frankly. If he wants to get that done, he's going to need to get past the first of the Bonfim brothers. Ismael, 29-year-old Brazilian, 20-5 overall, 2-2 in the UFC, coming in off a loss. He fought Nazim Salikhov at UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Rodriguez back in February and got walloped in the first round sufficiently that it was stopped between rounds by the doctor. So he's looking to get back into the win column here, and he is favored to do so. Bonfim is minus 220, Padilla plus 180 as the underdog. Keith, tell me to what extent you believe in Bonfim as a lightweight and who you think gets it done here.
I believe his brother a lot more. I'll tell you that.
I mean, I'm definitely with you there.
Yeah, I mean, there was times, I mean, like, you guys, like the Terrence McKinney fight, he looked like, oh my God, both these guys could be world champions. And then that has been the case in other fights. He is a good athlete. He's very Muay Thai striking, counter striker. He's good at beating his opponents to point of contact. He's fast, accurate, works behind a crisp jab, targets the body well. I love his left hook to the body. He generates really good power. He wings a lot of power punches after that. He does well to rep his shots around his opponent's own punches. Like if they throw a punch, he counters it and like kind of throws right over the top of it. He throws wide hooks at the end of his combinations as he'll throw straight, then he'll throw some wider hooks, trying to catch them as they're exiting the exchanges, or they're trying to circle away from the exchanges. Hard leg kicks, incredible flying knee KO of Terrence McKinney a long time ago. The problem is he's not the most defensive sounded. He pillars. He also backs straight up. He's a solid wrestler. Fast entries, very physically strong. He gets a limb. He'll pick you up and slam you. BJJ kind of grappler he's isn't the best in chain wrestling or anything like that. But if he's got four subs on his record, he's not the submission threat that his brother is. Padilla isn't a great athlete. This is a guy that I did not expect to last long in the UFC, and he's kind of really overachieved and looked well. He's a pretty fairly well-rounded fighter, not that fast, but he's fairly technical. He works behind a good jab. He's got some plus power, big kicking game, loves calf kicks. Though sometimes he'll throw without a setup. He blasted Rong Zhu with a perfectly timed step and elbow. He will close the distance and battle in the clinch. He'll look for takedowns. He likes takedowns from particularly chest to chest in the clinch. Though I wouldn't call him a wrestler. If he has to fight the ground, busy ground and pound, and he has 5 subs on his own record. So if you asked me 3 years ago, I would have been all over Bonfim. I would have been like, dude, he's so much more skilled. This is why are they doing my man Padilla like this? But Padilla has the intangibles. He's one of these guys. He's a gritty guy, and I could see him. The deeper the fight goes, I start favoring Padilla more if he's still in it. He's grinding against the cage. That said, the speed advantage, the wrestling advantage, it's still all on Bonfim here. I'm picking Bonfim by decision, but not much confidence. But give me Bonfim by decision.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go upset there, and I wanted you to do it, and I wanted you to be right, even though I'm picking Bonfim as well. Just, it's not to the level of Steve Garcia that, you know, we just talked about last week, but Padilla certainly has greatly overachieved compared to what I expected of him when he signed with the UFC. He really did just seem to be just another guy. Like, I was only even really familiar with him is because Dave Mandel, longtime photographer for Sherdog, who lives in Southern California, has been photographing Up Next fighting events. So I'd seen photos of Padilla and seen, you know, the result and knew he was winning fights. But I mean, his last win in UNF was against Justin James. Like, that is not a reliable predictor of UFC success, but he's 3-0. And while James Yontop and Rong Zhu are kind of lower level guys in the division, beating Jai Herbert anyway is like, he's definitely proven he belongs. And he's only 30. Who knows? Like, he beats Bonfim. If he calls for a top 15 fight after that, nobody's going to laugh at him anyway. And you're right. Like, he's the classic jack of all trades, master of none. He just seems very much like a guy who trained MMA from the start. Like, he doesn't strike me as a guy that had necessarily a boxing background or a wrestling background beyond maybe like high school or something. But yeah, tough, makes up for his lack of huge size or athleticism with just a high motor and a smart approach to being well-rounded. A guy who kind of seems to have a good instinct for when to turn it from a striking contest to wrestling and so forth. And given that this Bonfim brother has, you know, proven that he can be hit, proven that he can be hurt, has not necessarily proven that he can go late into a fight where he is facing a lot of adversity. If this thing even gets it to the end of the first round and both guys are still standing, all of a sudden this is a much more interesting proposition. But yeah, Bonfim, he's a little bit younger. He's much more of an athlete. I think he's a harder hitter. If he's the one who takes the fight to the ground, I think he's a more dangerous grappler. I've got Bonfim by decision as well, but I'm not sure he should be greater than the 2-1 favorite here. And I do think there is ripe upset potential. That brings us to the co-main event of UFC on ESPN 73, a men's flyweight matchup between Matt Schnell and Joseph Morales. Schnell, the 35-year-old Louisianan by way of Texas, or no, he's Texan by way of Louisiana. 17-9 with 1 no contest overall. 7-7 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC as the former LFA flyweight champ and through season 24 of The Ultimate Fighter. He is coming in off a win. He's already fought once this year. It was at UFC on ESPN, Gary versus Prates back in April, where he picked up a unanimous decision over Jimmy Flick. That snapped a 3-fight losing streak for him, dating back almost 3 full years. So Schnell looking to keep up that positive momentum. He'll need to get past Morales in order to do so. 31-year-old Californian is 13-2. Overall. He is 2-2 across 2 separate stints with the UFC, but the UFC let him go, 7 years ago. It was 2018. He took several years off completely, came back in 2021, won a few fights, got signed this summer, made his return debut at UFC 319 in August, where he tapped out Alibi Adiris in the second round. So Morales, still just 31 years old, looking to show he does have something to offer this division, and he is comfortably favored to get it done. Morales is minus 270, Schnell plus 220. I'm flipping this one to you, Keith. The UFC tends to bury men's flyweight fights unreasonably low on cards. This one is not buried. Tell me what's good about it and who you think wins.
Yeah, we just mentioned that off the air. It's like, that's what we get. Like, I'll complain about a flyweight fight being so low, and then we get one, and we still gonna complain. I'm like, what? Why is the guy who's like obviously well on his back 9 in Matt Schnell versus a guy like Morales? Yeah, nice win in his return to the UFC, but kind of viewed as a lower level. Like, why do these guys get good treatment? But okay. It should be a fun fight. Matt Snell, I mean, the thing that stands out to me more than anything is just poor fight IQ. He just seems to make the wrong decisions so many times recently. On the feet, he's a high output striker. He marches down his foe. He loves boxing, pretty quick hands, uses a lot of feints to set up his power shots. Lets you get into the pocket, and he just loves to brawl. And that's the big problem is the fight IQ. I don't think he has the durability to do it anymore. He does have power if he connects. He's hurt so many countless flyweights in his run in the UFC, but he's also been hurt and I don't know if his chin can hold up. He isn't much of an offensive wrestler, and he's a terrible defensive wrestler, but he's a very good submission threat. I don't want to say grappler because he gets subbed himself, but he's got 8 subs. He loves head attacks, Darce Joe's guillotines, got a very fast guillotine, looks for subs off his back. He's super flexible so he can get them. The problem is he's been subbed a lot himself. Again, he finds a way to make mistakes. Morales, look good in his return. He marches down his foe. He's a technical striker on the feet, keeps his right hand glued to his chin. He's a pressure counter striker, good at slipping and ripping. He's got like I said, he's got a good right hand. He attacks with combinations, really sits on his punches. So he has, plus power. I like his elbows inside. Defensively, he does well to bounce his head off the center line. He's not a bad offensive wrestler. But his defensive wrestling isn't the best. But he's a good grappler, good back takes, nice ground and pound. If he's taken down, he works back to his feet. He has a submission threat. He can get subs off his back. And he's got good cardio. So it seems like I think this is the 3rd or 4th time I've said this on the card, or maybe it's the 6th, 7th time. But years ago, I would have felt very comfortable picking Snell. It would have been an easy win for him. I'm not sure of that anymore. Now, do I think he should be this big of an underdog? No. I think we're going to see it. I think he's going to get hit on the feet. I think he's going to get hurt. I think Morales could take him down too. I see Snell throwing some sub attempts, Morales avoiding all of them. I think Morales eventually connects on a big shot, and Snell can't withstand it anymore. Give me Morales by 2nd round TKO.
Yeah. Again, you covered most of the ground that I wanted to. At this point, yeah, Snell is 35 in a division where 35 is kind of old and has taken a ton of punishment, has had multiple fights scratched either because of impending weight, cut failure or illness. He's got a little of the just Ian McCall, like cursed flyweight thing to him. But even before the wear was starting to show, you sized it up perfectly. Most of his losses, even in his prime, could be attributed to lapses in fight IQ and lapses in defense and durability that only became an issue because of his fight IQ. Like, honestly, a person I sort of compare him to, even if the exact skills don't line up, is someone he's fought, and that's someone we just talked about last week, Cody Durden, where Cody Durden has found ways to lose to less skilled fighters just by putting himself in the way of their best weapons. Like a lot of Durden's losses in the UFC can just be attributed to really poor, decisions in fight. Schnell's got a little of that going on. And yeah, it's a little jarring to see him as almost a 3-1 underdog against a guy that has not even conclusively proven that he belongs in the UFC. But I do understand why he's an underdog, because Morales looked pretty good in his comeback fight. Like, Adira Salibi's a pretty good fighter. He looked good on the Contender Series, and Morales didn't just finish him in the 2nd round. Like, he looked good against him the whole time. If he fights that same basic way against Schnell, I think Schnell's going to find a way to lose the fight. He's either going to blunder into a submission, run into a big punch like you suggested, or it'll be an even fight and just Schnell's defense and durability and recoverability will give out first, just because of the difference in age, the difference in wear and tear. I would love to pick a different specific conclusion just to make things interesting, but I see no reason to be different just to be different. I think Morales finishes this in the 2nd round as well. With that, we come to the main event of UFC on ESPN 73. a welterweight clash between Gabriel Bonfim and Randy Brown. Bonfim, the younger of the Bonfim brothers, 28 years old, 18-1 overall, 5-1 since joining the UFC out of season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series and as the former LFA welterweight champ. Since suffering his first and thus far only career loss almost exactly 2 years ago against Nicholas Dalby, he has rattled off 3 straight wins against Angelosa, Chaos Williams, and in his most recent outing, back in July, Stephen Thompson, whom he defeated via split decision at UFC on ESPN Lewis versus Teixeira. So the younger, bigger Bonfim brother looking for his 4th straight win, this time against a fellow ranked foe, looking to propel himself into the actual outer fringes of the title discussion. But in order for any of that to happen, he's going to have to survive Randy Brown. 35-year-old Jamaican is 20-6 overall. He's 14-6 in the UFC. He's coming in off a win. He already fought once this year. It was back in April at UFC on ESPN 66, where he knocked out Dalby in the 2nd round. That allowed him to bounce back from a split decision loss to Brian Battle last December. He's going to look to make it 2 wins in a row here. He is not favored to get that done, as Bonfim is minus 180, Brown plus 150 as the underdog. But like we said off the top, this is a good welterweight fight. You can make the argument that it doesn't have as much sizzle as, you know, a lot of our other fight night main events, even in the Apex. But in terms of the quality of the fighters, you know, it's 2 top 15 welterweights coming in off wins. They could do worse. Tell me who you think gets it done. I'll
tell you, you said they both could do worse. They could be like Jaden Daniels right now. I think he just broke his arm. As I'm watching Sunday Night Football on the side. And if in a game that's 38-7, he's still playing. But yeah, it just been a bad season for that young man. Yeah, so we bashed this card, but this is a good fight. I just want to be clear. Like, I think the winner of this fight will really be in a good position. I think, like, when we match make, I'm gonna be giving him a high ranked welterweight, top 10 guys, So I want to put that out there. Like, I'm not bashing these guys. It's just the I think it's just I'm a little checked out this week because of been busy, and then we keep getting these lower level cards. But these guys are not low level fighters. Bonfim, he's a pressure fighter, nice volume. He's a very fast starter. I've said this before. He comes out of the gate. I said he looks like he's shot out of a cannonball. Slip and rip guy, fast hands, accurate. He's got a fantastic jab. I like his check left hook. He throws a lot of power shots. Love his uppercuts inside. He does keep his chin a little too high for my liking. Pulls his head straight back at the center line, which is concerning. Nice kicks. He also checks leg kicks. I go back to like the Stephen Thompson fight. He busted Stephen Thompson's leg up with calf kicks and check-in kicks. He's a very good wrestler. Fast entries. He's physically strong. He gets to the hips and he loves picking up his opponent and slamming them. Very similar to his brother in that capacity. I go back to like the Trevin Giles. I mean, it was a long time ago, but that's he picked him up over his head and slammed him. Needs to improve his overall control on the ground. But he's a big submission threat. He's got 12 or 13 subs on his record. He subbed Trevin Giles, Chaos Williams, Muniz Lazez, however you say his name. He loves guillotines, but he will jump guillotine very early. Even when he doesn't have it, he's got a spectacular Darce choke, and he's got good cardio. Like he can go hard all 15 minutes. Randy Brown, another guy I like a lot. Long and lanky striker, works best from the outside. Good footwork to keep himself in range. He uses feints well to set up his shots. He's a good boxer, fast hands, works behind a good jab. He sets up his power shots with feints. He also feints with his hips, which I love. He's accurate. He couldn't miss against Nicholas Dalby, and he showed power. Got a huge KO over Dalby, one of the best of the year. A huge kicking game, good teep kicks up the middle. His long legs do make him a target to be kicked. I go back to like the Vicente Luque fight. Luque beat him up with calf kicks. If his opponent crashes the pocket, he looks to clinch, which I've said this before, has that like little nail magnet thing in him where if they get close, he's going to clinch and be on the offense. Uses his legs well inside there. He's a solid wrestler. He likes like body lock takedowns. Also has the Mikey Kessa long arms that can snatch singles and stuff. His takedown defense has greatly improved, and he's good top control. He's got 5 submission wins, and I always go back to like the Salikhov dos Santos fights where he was getting his jaw crushed with the rear naked choke and didn't tap, so he showed a lot of heart. So as a prediction, like I said, this is an awesome fight. I think both guys are really good. I think Bonfim is probably the more technical guy in the feet, but Brown has the more intangibles on this side. Both are really good on the ground. Both are really good on the feet. And I think it's close. I slightly favor Bonfim. Not much confidence in my pick, but I'm going to say we have a war. I think this makes up for the card and paper where this is just a really, really exciting, good fight. Give me Bonfim by split decision.
Yeah, I like this fight a lot as well. And obviously, Gabriel Bonfim is the more promising of the two at this point. And he always seemed to be like he was the younger of the two. Even though they're in separate divisions, he's the one that's a more appropriate size for his division. It seems like more of an athlete. Obviously, the results have borne that out. Like, even though he's lost a fight in the UFC at this point, he has generally looked really damn good. Randy Brown has come a long ways. Like I kind of said off the top, he seemed like somebody as late as, 2019 or so, that was never really going to turn the corner. He was going to be stuck in that Nico Price kind of in that bucket forever, where he'd pick up a bunch of bonuses because his fights were usually exciting and he would win or sometimes lose in spectacular ways. But just, he had a couple of glaring weaknesses that I figured were always going to form his ceiling. One, you already mentioned. His defensive wrestling was horrible. Like his very first fight in the UFC was like Michael Graves, who turned out really not to be UFC material, soundly out wrestled him and ended up tapping him out. But since then, he's really only just lost to better fighters. He's lost to people like, Bilal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena. But there were those couple of early fights where he just found weird and spectacular low percentage ways to lose that, because they were so memorable, maybe made me underestimate his potential a little bit. Like, we'll never forget the way he lost to Nico Price. Like, that position will never be repeated as long as MMA goes, where, I can't even describe it. Like, if you're watching this, you don't remember the fight, go to Fight Pass, go to YouTube, look it up and be like, how the hell did they get there? Or even, you mentioned the Vicente Luque fight. The crazy thing about that was that, like, Luque finished him with this knee, like in the closing seconds of the second round, and Luque managed to make it legal by lifting Brown's torso off the ground, kneeing the fuck out of his face, and then just like dropping him like a sack of potatoes. It was brutal.
Classic Vicente Luque.
Classic Vicente Luque, like the nicest guy in the world, but just doing evil things to people. But Brown has turned into a guy that no longer finds weird ways to lose fights. And while if you're a 6'3" dude who's mostly legs and you kick a lot, there are always going to be compromises when it comes to takedown defense. You've mentioned it. Like, his takedown defense has gotten better. He's fixed the things he can. He doesn't give up easy takedowns in the clinch. Like, he initiates the clinch. He's gotten good at threatening people with jiu-jitsu. So he's like, you can't just take him down, park on him for 4 minutes and call that a round in your favor. Like, he makes things uncomfortable and miserable for the other fighter on the ground. I want to pick the upset here. I see a million ways he could do it, but the things that kind of close down and minimize like the windows of opportunity to pull off the upset are both things that you mentioned. One, Bonfim's a fast starter, and jumping right on Brown from the beginning could pay off for him. And then the fact that he's demonstrated, like Bonfim has demonstrated, that he can at least go 3 rounds in a high-paced fight that switches back and forth between striking and grappling with no problem. And because of that, I have no reason to believe he won't look good in a 5-round fight. Those two facts about Bonfim kind of make the upset feel less likely. So I'm with you here. I think Bonfim wins a decision. I don't think it's going to be a one-sided thing. Or if Bonfim goes 5 rounds with Brown, or goes at least 3 rounds with him and finishes him late and isn't in big trouble at any point, that tells us some things about Bonfim as well. He's maybe even more of a contender than we thought. But give me Bonfim to win an entertaining, fast-paced, and generally competitive fight by decision as well. And that is it. The Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC on ESPN 73, Bonfim versus Brown, also known as UFC Vegas 111. I've been Ben. He has been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our previews, first of all, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to bring you a mix of in-depth analysis and occasional asides that we think is pretty unique in this industry. We were both a little more terse and grouchy than usual, but normally we have a real good time here. Please do like.
Ben, you're being nice. I was the grouchy one.
I'm really not in a good mood. I'm smiling, but I'm grouchy.
You could be a bitch. You could say
it. Here, I'll tell you something that'll make you smile. My wife and I have been watching Peacemaker. I know you don't watch it because you don't like comic book shit, but it's a DC Comics thing, and it stars John Cena.
Hold on a second. You haven't finished The Wire. You haven't watched Band Brothers, and you're telling me this story is going to make me feel better. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe it won't.
Like the greatest TV shows ever, but okay. Peacemaker.
So, my wife and I
it's got John Cena in it.
He's starring in it, yeah.
Okay, so he's the main character.
He's fantastic.
Nice,
but
okay.
We're driving, getting some errands done today, and she just kind of turns to me out of nowhere and goes, "So what was John Cena's like wrestling name?" I'm like, "John Cena." She's like, "Oh, it wasn't like Grave Digger or something?" And I'm like, "Grave Digger is a truck." No, it was just John Cena.
Your wife is awesome. She's also a Grave Digger.
Anyway, please do like, subscribe.
Hold
None
on,
of those things.
What's this show about? You just can't just give me.
It's a superhero show, but he's a superhero that's kind of like a violent anti-hero type one. Like, he's much more of the Wolverine Punisher mold than Captain America. Okay. Yeah, and he's trying to do the right thing, and shit goes wrong for him all the time. It's actually a really well done show. Okay. But
good.
Anyway.
Good for John Cena. Nice.
Yeah, good job. Good for John Cena. Hopefully pretty soon he can join The Rock and Dave Bautista and not have to be all jacked anymore and just go to a natural body for a 50-year-old man. Hopefully that's coming soon for him.
Wait, hold on. The Rock is not jacked anymore?
Oh, dude. No. He looks like he overeamed it. As soon as the Smashing Machine was done, he looks like he's lost 40 pounds of muscle. Really? And all of a sudden he looks 56 years old or whatever he is.
No shit.
Just gone. Shockingly different. Yeah.
Everyone's listening to this end of the show. Why are they talking about this right now? Instead of just closing the show. All right. Sorry.
Hey, subscribe. Drop us a comment. Keith and I would love to hear your take on these fights. Join us for the recap. We're live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. We'll talk about all 13 of these fights in order, from the headliner on down to the first prelim. Keith takes the captain's chair. We'll talk about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something, especially these last couple weeks. We'll talk about what's next for the notable winners as well as losers, and we'll be talking with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we're taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends who hang out with us after the fights, and we would love for you to be part of it. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.